Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Boy, that was some snowstorm last weekend, right? Well, I hope you all managed well and at least took a little time to enjoy the beauty of that snow, in spite of the fact we had to plow ourselves out and stay indoors off the streets because the roads were so bad. Our next woman is found in Second Kings. And once again, she had no power, prestige, or popularity. In fact, most times she is completely overlooked in the story. She was simply a servant girl. And like so many of our Bible women, we don't even know her name. All we know is she was an Israelite girl who had been captured during one of the many raids on Israel by their Aramean enemies to the north. She's described as a young girl, and so it's likely she was probably only about 12 years old. She'd been given as a servant to the wife of Naaman, who was the commander of the king's army, known by all to be a great man who suffered from leprosy. It's hard to imagine the terror that this poor girl must have felt. Being captured in an armed raid, dragged away from your family, if they even survived, and being taken to a foreign land to work as a slave in the household of the very person who had captured you. Now, we're not given the details, but considering Naaman was commander of the army, he was the one responsible for taking her away from her family and everything she held dear and turning her into a slave. Now, I don't know about you, but at the very least, I'd be a little resentful if that happened to me. But this young woman seems to have handled it with remarkable grace. She apparently accepted her situation and went about her duties with love and concern for those around her, even her captors. In fact, this young girl saw how Naaman suffered as a result of his leprosy and mentioned it to her mistress, saying that if only Naaman could get to the prophet Elisha in Samaria, he could be healed. Obviously, Naaman and his wife saw something special in their servant girl, or else they would have never paid attention when she told them about Elisha. But not only did they listen, they got the king involved. Think about it. How wild is that? A slave girl mentions to her mistress about a prophet who could heal her master, and the next thing you know, the king is writing a letter to another king. See, Naaman's wife spoke to Naaman, and then he went to the king of Aram, who gave him permission to travel to Israel and send him to the king of Israel with a supportive letter and gifts. It is an extraordinary thing that these few confident, faithful words from a little young servant girl had such power that they galvanized the whole family, and even the king went into action. Now, the journey would have taken them several days, and although it doesn't say this in the text, it is probable that Naaman's wife and the servant girl would have gone along with them. I can't begin to imagine what it must have been like for her to travel back to her homeland, a place where she was once free and loved. And she did it with those who had captured her and killed her people. I wonder if she witnessed Elijah the prophet, who, to Naaman's shock, sent out his servant to tell Naaman that his healing's only going to come if he washes himself in the river Jordan 7 times. What? What kind of healing is that? Well, it was to be a healing of much more than just the leprosy. See, Naaman also needed to be healed of his own arrogance, pride, self-importance, and no doubt much else besides that. Anyway, Naaman does as he was told, and miraculously, after dipping 7 times in the Jordan, the leprosy vanishes. In the end, Naaman is not only healed physically, but is also spiritually transformed and comes to realize that the Hebrew God of Elisha and his wife's servant girl is the only true God. Yes, Naaman turns to God and they return to their home in peace. Did you hear that? They all return. This girl is still a servant, but I hope now that her life is good and she's treated well, maybe even freed. Because here's the thing. This little servant girl changed lives and turned folks to God. She was the one who planted the seed. If she hadn't shown kindness and love to her masters, they would have never listened when she spoke. And if they didn't take her seriously, but most of all, if they hadn't taken her seriously and seen God in her, they would have never had a desire to meet him themselves. In the end, we learn from this young girl the beauty of compassion and how to keep the faith in every circumstance and to never lose hope, no matter what. I just love this story. Now, please, stay safe. Please consider getting vaccinated if you haven't, and get your booster if you need it. Never forget, we are in this thing together and things are getting better, but only if we continue to work together and care about each other. I say let's do it. I know we all can. Now take time today and find a blessing. They're everywhere. And know you are loved by God so much. And me too. I'll see you soon. Peace.